Welcome, children. Great to have you all here this morning. I have some questions for you, and so I want you to just shout out some answers as you think of that. But you heard that today we're talking about water, and we've got all these great pieces of art back here, all depicting different things about water. But I want you to think back to the last couple of days, maybe this past week. What are the ways in which you interacted with water? Tell me some ways in which you used water or were around water this last week. Shower. Aha! Good. Thank you for showering. And yes, we need to clean ourselves. We use water, right? Yeah, take baths and showers. We use water that way. Absolutely. What are some other ways that you might have interacted with water? We drink water. My gosh, yes. Hopefully we drink lots of water. We need to drink lots of water. Boating. Yeah. We have lots of fun with water and on water, right? We can go boating. We can go water skiing. We can go sailing. What are other ways?
We water plants.
We water plants, right? Plants won't grow if they don't have water in them. And oftentimes we have to help Mother Nature by putting water on them, especially if those plants are trying to grow inside, right? And so we look around our church, we have all kinds of plants here, and Roger is our friend who makes sure all of our plants get watered here at the church. And so, yeah, we need water for that. What are other ways? Doing the dishes, right? We can't clean up from dinner or without using some water. Absolutely. Now, I know my dog loves it when we give him the job of cleaning the plates, but we'd still have to use some water after he's done as well. So, rain, right? Yeah, we interact with water when we're outside and it rains. Now, we haven't had a lot of rain this summer, but we've had a couple of big downfalls, and so it helps keep all of the world green around us and wonderful and lush. Absolutely. We need water to cook with too, right? You can't make macaroni and cheese without a big pot of water, right? And so we need water, and we use water in lots of ways. Now, I got another question for you. Can you think of the Bible stories that we have told you here at Prince of Peace, or maybe you've read in your story Bibles at home? Name some of those stories that involve water. Jesus' baptism, right? Yeah, he was in where did he get baptized? In a river, exactly, the Jordan River, right? Full of water. He went down into the river and came back up again. We read that story all the time. Yeah. What's another story that uses water from the Bible? The Red Sea, yeah, exactly. And who was interacting with it? Who was the main character in that story? Moses, right? Yeah, Moses was leading the Israelites away from Egypt. They were running away from Pharaoh's army. They got to the Red Sea, and you thought they were done for. They were trapped up against the sea, and what did God do? Parted the seas, right? So they could walk across safely to the other side. Right. What's another? You had another one, Rick? The wedding of Cana. Now that's one of my favorite stories. I was just at a wedding last night, and at this wedding they didn't run out of wine. I tried to help them, but they didn't run out. And but in the story in the Bible, they ran out of wine. The beverage that was safe for everyone to drink at this celebration, and so Jesus took water, jugs of water, and turned them into wine. It was a miracle. The wedding at Cana, we call that. Great story. Any other stories, Dan?
Bad luck fishing.
Bad luck fishing. I think there's actually, well, that's a different picture, but yeah, the disciples were out trying to find fish, and they were fishing all day long, and Jesus was napping on the boat, and they weren't having any luck, and Jesus says, you know what, why don't you put your nets over on the other side? And they said, come on, Jesus, we've been fishing here all day. There's no fish down there. They're not going to get into our nets. He says, trust me. And they put their nets in, and they pull up the biggest haul of fish they'd ever pulled up, right? Yeah, absolutely. Out on the lake. Lots of stories in the Bible, both in the Old Testament and the New Testament. There's one really important one that I haven't heard yet today. What happened with Noah? A flood, right? big, lots of water came. It rained for how long? 40 days and nights, and the whole earth was covered with water. And then God, what did God put in the sky to show that it was over with? And He put a rainbow in the sky to remind us that God's love will be with us forever, and that God will work with us and trust us to care for God's creation, to care for one another, to care and love one another, because that's the promise God has made for us. And so, yeah, great story. We can't have many of these stories without water. And we heard one really important one a minute ago, actually two versions of the same story, the creation story. It all started with water. So today we talk about water. Now I've got this bowl right here, and this bowl has a fun name. What do we call this? This is our font, our baptismal font, right? And there's some water in here right now. And don't worry, I know you feel like you might be in the splash zone, but you won't need a poncho today. But there's water here, and this water that we put in this bowl and have here in our church together is to help us remember lots of things. One is a lot of the stories that are depicted in these pictures, the stories that you've just been telling and sharing with me. It reminds us of all the ways in which God has used water to bring about life in this world. And the water that we interact with every day, and all those stories you tell me about how you used water and the ways in which you interacted with water, those are all connected to how God uses water in the world. And so today, it's all about water. And we're going to give thanks that God has baptized us with water, because this is a really tangible way for us to feel and know God's presence and all the promises that God has made to love us no matter what. Those are all, we can feel that when we put our hands in this water and we mark a sign of the cross on our foreheads. This is so important that we do that we actually do this in church regularly. We give thanks for baptism. And that little liturgical thing, you guys know what that word is, liturgical thing, that piece of work, that piece of business that we do as a part of our worship together is so important that we give thanks regularly for baptism. And you know how we do that? We just did it. Giving thanks for baptism starts with remembering God and all the ways in which God, through water, has been a part of our life. And whether it's the stories that we hear in the Old Testament and in the New Testament about Jesus, these stories about Moses and Noah and creation and Jesus and the disciples, those stories remind us of how God works in the world. And then we get our hands wet and we put our hands into this water so we can remember that Jesus, when he was baptized in the River Jordan, invited us into that exact same baptism, to know God's love through this very tangible way of getting our hands and our feet and our faces wet with God's love. And so today we give thanks for baptism. Thank you for helping me tell that story this morning.